Was that a hypothetical instance of calling for violence, Daily Caller? When he says, is this a call for violence? Yes, explicitly it is. That must be a hypothetical, explicit call for violence. I've talked several times about how the right is lying when it acts like it's one entity. The right wing in this country, the MAGA Republicans, even the libertarian types, they act like they were all beside themselves with grief over the killing of Charlie Kirk, and that how could the left do this? How could, oh, this is so terrible. The left, they did this. They plotted this. All of that was nonsense. Political violence must be stopped. We have to come together. We have to bring the temperature down. They've all said this. And then one of them wrote a piece for the Daily Caller, the outlet that Tucker Carlson founded, talking about wanting blood in the streets. I'm not going to read from the Daily Caller because I'm not going to give them clicks. I don't recommend you give them clicks. But here's the headline from the Daily Beast that talks about this article. MAGA columnist makes jaw-dropping demand for blood in the streets. The Daily Caller editor-at-large wrote, is this a call for violence? Yes. So for all, again, of the hand-wringing and the crocodile tears and the fake concern about domestic extremism, about political violence, they don't care. They want to bring violence. They want to be the administrators of violence. They don't want to be on the receiving end. If they are victimized by violence, it's a grave tragedy and injustice. But if they commit violence, if they provide blood in the streets, it's justified and just the natural outcome of things. A columnist for a leading conservative news website explicitly calls for violence and blood in the streets on Friday. Geoffrey Ingersoll, editor-at-large of the Daily Caller, made his bloodthirsty demand in a lengthy column published on the site under the headline, "Enough is enough, I choose violence," in all capital letters, after his dear leader, Donald Trump. It spoke about striking a fat black woman and using ex-convicts to inflict pain. They tell on themselves every time they open their fucking mouths. These vile, sickening, sinister racists. Ingersoll's call for violence came after Donald Trump and J.D. Vance claimed that it was the radical left that was responsible for growing political violence, a claim greeted with skepticism, but which they have doubled down on. Ingersoll, a formerly editor-in-chief of the site and, like Vance, a one-time Marine public affairs writer, made clear that he was calling for drubbings, cudgels, and extra-legal acts of violence, all in quotes, even though the site later appended an editor's note claiming his essay referred to, quote, hypothetical instances of self-defense, hypothetical drubbings, hypothetical cudgeling, hypothetical extra-legal acts of violence, I guess is what they mean. Who believes this? It doesn't give you plausible deniability, Daily Caller, to publish violent rhetoric from your former editor-in-chief, your Marine public affairs writer. He thinks he's a real baddie, too. I went to his Twitter account, and he's... The photo that's in the article of him unshaven in his headshot is not what this guy looks like now. I'll tell you that. But Ingersoll, in fact, wrote, today, I choose violence. Literally, I know calls for violence are generally frowned upon. The issue is, I simply don't care. In case readers were in doubt, it went on to say, quote, is this a call for violence? Yes, explicitly it is, end quote, before suggesting that, quote unquote, conservatives could not rely on police or prosecutors, so should bring security with you that's dying to dole out drubbings. Was that a hypothetical instance of calling for violence, Daily Caller? when he says, is this a call for violence? Yes, explicitly it is. That must be a hypothetical, explicit call for violence. One of those hypothetical, explicit calls for violence. We see you. We know who you are. Ingersoll invokes some recent incidents in which conservative activists have faced aggressive responses in the streets, such as an April incident, in which pro-life activist Savannah Craven Ontow, I don't know who that is, was slapped in the head while doing an on-the-street interview about abortion in Harlem, New York. He described the attacker as a fat black lady and a brutish, hulking woman. Yeah, that appeared hard to square with Ingersoll's column. Quote, so some activist takes the sign next to your table at a public debate, he wrote. She gets instantly clotheslined. I don't care if police are present. Do it anyway. In fact, be wildly disproportionate, says this person who served in the Marine Corps as a public affairs writer. Even the photo he has pinned to his Twitter account to really make being a Marine his personality is him at a keyboard. He added, quote, we must stop clutching our principles and shouting stop. They own the legal system. That will achieve nothing. We need action, disproportionate, violent action. That must be hypothetical, disproportionate, violent action. Right, Daily Caller? The time to go as lambs to the slaughter is over, he wrote. Ingersoll, 43, was an enlisted Marine who served in public affairs, not combat, in Iraq, then went to New York University to study journalism, claiming in his online biography that he discovered Manhattan's Greenwich Village was more dangerous than Baghdad. Yeah. Tell me you've never been in danger in a combat zone without telling me you've actually never seen real danger in a combat zone. When you think Greenwich Village in New York City, Greenwich Village in New York City is more dangerous than Baghdad. Also, let me say this before I end. It is the times to go as lambs to the slaughter is over, he says. When did that begin? We must stop clutching our principles and shouting stop. When did that begin? You must stop doing that. Republicans, conservatives, the Trump cult has been violent from the jump. There's never been a time where they've been pearl clutching. The only time they pearl clutch is over their lies and culture war nonsense, when someone else's behavior does nothing to diminish their rights or their life in this country. He's a liar who's trying to whip the base into a frenzy to commit acts of violence, while the Daily Caller does its best with its hypotheticals. Oh, this is all hypotheticals. They're liars. They want blood in the streets by their own admission. So next time you hear Mike Johnson or J.D. Vance or Stephen Miller or any one of these other worthless tell you that we need to bring down the temperature, we need to really watch what we say, we need to come together and find commonality, they don't want that. They don't want peace. They want war, as evidenced by the dear leader's declaration of war against different blue cities in this nation, cities that did not vote for him, in states that did not vote for him. And this shitbird is just another example of that. Anyway, what do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are marching steadily ahead to 1.5 million subscribers, hoping to get there by the end of the year. You can also like and follow the Facebook page, which almost has 20,000 followers and likers. You can also comment below the video wherever you're watching it, or call and leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail. Please keep them brief. 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine and take care of one another.